Congratulations to all Egypt and all Egyptians as we celebrate June 30th revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another live edition of the Daily Debate Wednesdays with Taghreed Hussein here on Nile TV International. Tonight we'll be shedding light on the gains of June 30th revolution, how Egypt has really managed to rise to several challenges that it faced ever since President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi assumed power back in 2014. June 30th revolution had addressed Egypt's crucial challenges, starting from the need to rebuild a state that had been severely shaken by the political turmoil that erupted back in 2011, to the need to develop important and historic new relations with potential foreign partners on the basis of mutual respect and interest. And talking about Egypt's gains of the revolution and more, we're really honored to have with us Her Excellency Ambassador Moushira Khattab, a former Minister of Family and Population and our veteran diplomat who has always represented Egypt, the bright face of Egypt all over the world. Your Excellency, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And many happy returns on the occasion of June 30th revolution.
It's a great honor and it's a moment of joy to be sitting here talking about what we have achieved and gained since the 30th of June 2014. Really, the list is very long. It's difficult to know where to start.
The list is very long and it's different to know where to start. However, we all start by a sense of optimism, as I know that the event is so dear to your heart. It was the road to the new republic for Egypt and setting the backbone for rebuilding the country that we're seeing today. So many gains for June 30th revolution. To start with, all along the way, what would you say at the beginning?
Let me say that the first thing is regaining or restoring our identity. Egypt is a super power in terms of culture, civilization, in terms of the power of its people, even the most vulnerable. And we are so unique, and our identity was deliberately diluted over years and years. Mm-hmm. So we've restored this back, and it's important to remember President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the first word he uttered was Tahya Masr. And we started to hear the name Masr, Egypt. This was absent for many, many years. At a certain time, our name did not contain the word Masr or Egypt. It was the United Arab Republic. And some people came at a certain time in 2012 and said, Egypt is not important. So getting back our identity, this is a big achievement. And if I can say something at the human rights level, is eradication of hepatitis C.
Yes.
This was a dream come true. This was a taboo that nobody was willing to challenge or address. And here we are. This is behind our back. And like I said, the list is long. Whether we focus on the human beings, on the Egyptians, on the software of Egypt, the people, and what we have done for the people, or to focus on the infrastructure. And I followed the introduction, and you spoke about foreign policy. We cannot speak about foreign policy before we speak about our domestic policy, because this is your strength, your backbone. And based on this strength, you can have a solid foreign policy. But you cannot have a solid foreign policy when your internal physique has ailment. So if you look at the quality of drinking water, but this is, I'm giving you very soft examples. I'm not going to start with the roads that have been constructed, or the new capital. You spoke about the new Egypt or the new republic.
Yes.
I am honored to be giving lectures to the new members of or members of Egypt's civil service, الجهاز الإداري للدولة, who is moving to the new capital. And the idea and the vision of training 5 million or more before going to the new capital, it gives you an insight on how much we have changed. Because before we used to build concrete constructions, now we are focusing on building the human being.
Yes.
Because building the human being is more lasting, is more instrumental in making development happen.
Yes.
It happens with the humans, with the individuals.
With the people. Yeah.
I can say that this is the first time we invest in capacity building of members of the civil service. And this has made them feel very empowered and very eager to go there and start with a new spirit. It's truly a new republic because they are not only changing places, moving from Cairo to the new capital, but they're going without files. They're going using internet and information technology to serve the people. It's a new concept. It's truly a new republic. And we're moving from a bureaucracy where we have too many civil servants packed in one room with piles of files, torn and dusty files, to civil servants who are going to an office like this in a room well lit like this, and they only have their computer. And they're going to serve people through this computer. And through this computer, they're being in touch with their supervisors, and they are in touch with the people below them in the hierarchy. And they are connected with other line ministries. So this tells you that you're not only moving to the new capital, but you're making structural reform in the most difficult area, an area that was considered a taboo and everybody was keeping away because they knew they were doomed to fail. So we are making this shift, and we are building the new republic where me as a lay person, I want to go to the Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Housing or the Ministry of Education. I give them my ID number and ask for a certain service, and he doesn't need to search.
Yes.
He only clicks.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's connected and he sees my file, and I can even get the service while sitting home.
Yes, this is the quality of life in New Egypt, and that's why His Excellency the President was really keen to invest in the human being. And if we would remember together the World Youth Forum and the youth forums that has been throughout the country and roaming throughout the different governorates of Egypt, we would remember how the President was even keeping on writing and taking notes of the brilliant ideas of what the youth, the inspiring youth of Egypt had to present. Earlier in the day, Ambassador, the President
had... Before you move to another point, I want to underline what you have said. Investing in youth, empowering youth,
and listening to them,
reaching out to youth, and listening to them. The President doesn't simply go and attend the opening session and give a speech and go home. No, he sits for 2 or 3 days, moving from one room to the other, talking to the youth, and the youth are in charge of the entire process, inviting guests, receiving guests, setting the agenda, being speakers in the different sessions, and assessing the outcome of the conference. And the conference is not a one-time event, it's a process. And each conference invites new group of youth, and this is how you broaden the base,
make the exposure,
and how they feel empowered. And now look at the percentage of youth in the hierarchy as assistants to ministers, deputy governors, in every spot.
Yes.
So this is another success story, really, when you make the list for 30th of June.
Yes, definitely. Lots of success stories. The president delivered a speech to Egyptians today on the occasion of the 8th anniversary of June 30th revolution, and many messages that Egypt sends to the world today as we mark another year in the Egyptians' people march to the future. In the speech, the president stated that June 30th revolution was not just a passing moment in which Egyptians expressed anger, but rather conveyed their most established and noble constants. And this is what Her Excellency was talking about concerning preserving the Egyptian identity, which is considered to be a real cornerstone.
We're more self-confident now.
Yes, definitely, and empowered and stronger.
Because 2012 was a very dark year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's see this report, Excellency, and we will be back to further discuss more and also see excerpts of an ITV production entitled President Sisi, The Road to the New Republic, where we had marched together, and there had been milestones that we are really proud of. Let's watch.
The June 30th revolution saved Egypt from security chaos and a disastrous civil war. It saved the country from sinking into terror and sectarianism. Following the June 30th revolution in 2013, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took up the office of head of state, and since then the country has sought to return to the path of reform and construction and restore its leading role worldwide. As it struggled to overcome challenges at home, complicated and aggravated by the repercussions of regional crises, Egypt, under the leadership of President Sisi, set into motion the largest comprehensive modernization process that bolstered Egypt's ability to confront the diverse threats and dangers that loomed over the country. And the government applied a strategic vision enabling it to act effectively. At the African level, as soon as he came to power, President Sisi set into motion a plan of action to reinstate Egypt's African Union membership and strengthen the country's continental relations. He managed to reorient the Egyptian political compass southward, reviving Egypt's African role, leading to a qualitative shift in Egyptian-African relations in 2019 when Egypt assumed the chairmanship of the African Union. Ever since the June 30th revolution, the country fought to rebuild its status and influence in foreign affairs. Egypt strived not just to fight threats to global and regional peace and security, it also worked to build a nation with the power to protect its resources and capacities and to protect national and Arab security, to support African countries and to forge solid partnerships with all countries of the world without discrimination, and to work together with them individually and collectively to counter the threats posed by the meddling of certain regional powers in Arab domestic affairs. The June 30th revolution made it possible to rebuild and revive the national economy. Not only did it become possible to launch the difficult but successful economic reform program, it also generated conditions for nationwide infrastructural projects that included integrated network of roads, bridges and tunnels, a new administrative capital, and a second Suez Canal. National projects were launched and Egypt began to take strides in all development fields. The June 30th revolution paved the way for the development of the oil and energy infrastructure. Power generation stations of different types were established, a modern banking infrastructure took place, the establishment of new universities began, the modernization of the educational system and digitization witnessed a great leap, the health system developed, and millions of acres were reclaimed and planted. Thanks to all these advances, as along with all national projects, Egypt's economy has been able to recover its dynamism, earning the appreciation and esteem of international financial institutions. No doubt the inspiration for all this progress, and indeed the very heart of the June 30th revolution, is the Egyptian people, who stopped extremism and division that would have plagued the region. Egyptians were full of patience, persistence, and they united with the army, police, and all their national institutions to confront one of the biggest threats and challenges in their history. And still, 8 years after the June 30th revolution, the Egyptian army that once protected the country from the dark ambitions of a terrorist organization and supported the will of millions of Egyptians is still fulfilling its vow towards Egypt's soil and paving the way for the new republic.
In his speech to the nation earlier today, the president paid tribute to the great people of Egypt. The loyalty of the Egyptians to their homeland is a fact that do not change over time. Not only they were decisive, but also they joined hands with the army and the police to defend their precious homeland from any sort of conflict or chaos. And as they joined hands during the revolution, Egyptians also were behind their leadership as we fought together, Ambassador, the COVID-19 challenge. So this has been actually also transformational for Egypt, because our story with COVID-19, though challenging because we had at the same time to go in parallel with the developmental process and to continue building, however, our story in fighting COVID was very inspiring worldwide.
It was. I can say we were lucky, but it was not really luck. It was well planning that when COVID broke out, Egypt had completed or nearly completed its structural, economic and fiscal reform. COVID-19 dealt a blow to the world. I mean, countries developed, underdeveloped, it dealt a blow to everybody. Economic growth is now by minus in many countries. Alhamdulillah, we managed well, and the way we managed the pandemic was really exemplary, in a sense that there was good coordination between the government. Inside the government, we've seen a high-level committee formed, chaired by the Prime Minister. Any precautionary measures were taken by this committee, announced by the Prime Minister. He was always very flexible, and he said, these are the precautionary measures for now. We'll monitor the situation based on the behavior of the people. The following step will be declared. So there was good coordination, and this saved many lives, and it saved the economy as well. There was the lockdown like many other countries, but then we've realized as a global community that the economic price was hefty. It was even worse than the human life. Of course, human lives are very precious, but the economic bill was severe. So alhamdulillah, we were in a stable economic situation, and this enabled us, with good management of the crisis, we sailed safely. I hope we will continue to sail safely, because till now we don't know where this pandemic will take the world. Everybody is still wondering what will be the next step. We're on the third wave, there will be a fourth wave, or like they say, the virus will kill itself. We still don't know, but we hope to continue as cautious as we are, as well coordinated as we are, and as transparent, because the people need to know, and the people must be kept abreast with the situation. They must trust the data that we give them, the knowledge that we give them, so that they will be part of the decision-making process about the next step. If you remember, Egypt had started the financial inclusion program along with the structural reform. When COVID happened, the government made special measures for startups, tax exemption and tax holidays, and no rent for a certain time for young people who were supported by the state in certain programs. So I think we have a good story to tell. It was not without pain. Yes, we suffered, but also we have found new ways to make our life better. We realized that through the internet we can have our life going. We don't need to go physically, but we can do it via the internet. We've realized that connectivity was a human right, because without connectivity, poorer children will be deprived of education. When there was the school closure and students stayed home, the rich had connectivity, and the poor also needed connectivity. And speaking about connectivity made moving to the new republic a possibility.
Yes, moving to the new republic is actually, today we were celebrating also a milestone through the Decent Life initiative. The President paid today inspection tour of the equipment, the vehicles, as well as the engineering machinery of the various state authorities who are participating in the Presidential Decent Life initiative to develop the villages of the Egyptian countryside. And this initiative, Excellency, is considered to be a real milestone that is going to leave an impact and change the face of life of our people in the rural areas.
Absolutely, and the best part about it is the coordination between different stakeholders, be it government or the civil society. And I would say that with this physical work going on the ground, we need to educate people who will benefit from this initiative how to be self-sustained. Because really I can see that this initiative is part of many initiatives that are happening right now. And as good the initiatives as they are, people need to graduate from receiving assistance. They need to know how to be, self-dependent, and to encourage the private sector to lead the economic development and create more jobs and inject more money in the economy. So this initiative, the strength of this initiative is that it's initiated by the government, but you have many stakeholders part of it, civil society organizations, the private sector, so on and so forth. And this is how we should continue. This is at the time when the IMF declared 2 days ago that Egypt no longer needs foreign assistance. So this is a good testimony.
Very good news, yes.
That, yes,
definitely.
That you have covered so much ground with the economic and fiscal reform, and you can be self-dependent. You don't need to borrow money from abroad.
Yes. Another initiative is the initiative, of course, after the revolution and the road to the new republic, building Egypt was among the top priorities. Look today at the new cities that has changed the face of life in the country, the new Galela, the new administrative capital. And since we're talking about the IMF and talking about the economic prospects, how do you think the world is looking at Egypt today in the headlines economic-wise vis-a-vis those new cities that has changed the face of life in the country?
Well, Egypt is a very promising emerging
hub
economy.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest capital is the Egyptian people, the Egyptian brains, the Egyptian working labor.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, the structural reform that you are making to attract not only foreign investors, but Egyptian investors by reforming the labor law, the investment law, repatriation of profit, all of this will really make things flourish. And I think we are on the right track. You see more partners coming in. Look at France. Now France wants to be your leading trade partner, which reflects good confidence in the economy. So it's really a good story to tell, because we had so many deformities and malfunctioning and how can I say, dysfunctional economy. You were able to fix this and put the economy on solid grounds, and yet continue to make positive growth rate with the GDP. Of course, women empowerment and increasing the number of women at the labor market pushes the GDP very high, more than anything else you will do. If equal number of women to that of men in the labor market, the GDP of Egypt will be 34% more, according to the World Bank.
Yes, we will come to this point concerning women empowerment, while we have an icon for women empowerment herself, Her Excellency Ambassador Moushira Khattab. Let us have a look at excerpts, Your Excellency, from a documentary that Nile TV International has prepared, and it narrates Egypt's story of success with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi since he assumed power. What were the milestones we took, and how was the road to the new republic? As you were saying, that still there was definitely pain, but no pain, no gain.
Of course.
So it has been 7 years of hard work. And we tried through this documentary to highlight this hard work, a documentary that is dear to our hearts, written by Ghada Seif and directed by Dr. Iman Maqlad. Let's watch. June 30th revolution was more like a daybreak, a turning point in Egypt's history, and the light at the end of the tunnel.
بيان من القيادة العامة للقوات المسلحة. شهدت الساحة المصرية والعالم أجمع أمس مظاهرات وخروجا لشعب مصر العظيم ليعبر عن رأيه وإرادته بشكل سلمي وحضاري غير مسبوق. لقد رأى الجميع حركة الشعب المصري وسمعوا صوته بأقصى درجات الاحترام والاهتمام. ومن المحتم أن يتلقى الشعب ردا على حركته وعلى ندائه من كل طرف يتحمل قدرا من المسؤولية في هذه الظروف الخطرة المحيطة بالوطن.
No one can ever forget the historic speech released by the armed forces on the 1st of July 2013.
لقد عانى هذا الشعب الكريم ولم يجد من يرفق به أو يحنو عليه، وهو ما يلقي بعبء أخلاقي ونفسي على القوات المسلحة التي تجد لزاما أن يتوقف الجميع عن أي شيء بخلاف احتضان هذا الشعب الأبي الذي برهن على استعداده لتحقيق المستحيل إذا شعر بالإخلاص والتفاني من أجله.
بطلب من المصريين طلب، يوم الجمعة الجاية لابد من نزول كل المصريين ينزلوا عشان يديني تفويض وأمر بإني أواجه العنف والإرهاب المحتمل.
That firm statement was a result of the critical situation the homeland was passing through, when the national security of Egypt was exposed to great danger, and the Egyptian people were intimidated and were in a state of fear. We took great milestones, and also on the path of women empowerment, and women also in the judiciary very recently taking posts, women as governors, as ministers, of course, and one of the icons is Her Excellency Ambassador Moushira Khattab, being herself the member of the Board of Trustees of the Arab Observatory for Human Rights, and Her Excellency was awarded by the Speaker of the Arab Parliament recently for her efforts and her contributions. Mind you that the Arab Parliament has always commended the efforts of Egyptian leadership and President Sisi, and awarded His Excellency the Medal of Honor in Leadership. And this is the excellence and the heavyweight of Egypt worldwide. Your Excellency, congratulations on this award. And this is a very important dimension, talking about human rights and addressing human rights status in Egypt's human rights status before the world.
Well, we live in the era of human rights, because people matter and the most vulnerable matter. I'm very proud to be a member of the Board of Trustees of the Arab Observatory for Human Rights, because the Arab region needs it. We need to strengthen our legal framework for human rights, and I would like to put the Egyptian constitution as a model. We have a constitution that puts human rights as one of the foundations of the state. So the Observatory for Human Rights will help Arab states move on with human rights agenda. There is a demand for an Arab strategy to enforce human rights in the Arab world, and we'll be doing this, we'll be working on this. There are a number of lectures and capacity building for members of the Arab Parliament to enrich their narrative on human rights. These are all very important areas that we need to focus on, because if we look globally, we find that the Arab region needs to strengthen its infrastructure for human rights. We need to make human rights a public culture.
Yes.
Make everybody of the Arab population aware of his or her rights, and her rights means responsibilities and obligations of others, and vice versa.
Definitely.
So if I go to do a certain service, I have to queue, I have to wait for my turn.
Yes, the culture.
Exactly, and if there is a law, I have to respect the law
and abide
and
by.
not try to cut corners.
Right.
This will make us and will put us in better places.
Definitely, Your Excellency, the sky is always the limit, and Nile TV International was really honored to have you on a very dear occasion to us all, celebrating June 30th Revolution. Your Excellency Ambassador Moushira Khattab, our veteran diplomat, our bright face of Egypt, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. كل سنة وانتم طيبين.
وحضرتك بخير. Thank you so much. And dear viewers, that was June 30th Revolution episode live here on ITV International. Tomorrow, another debate and another team. Good night.